It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Join Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, Thursday from 10 to 2 at Tim Dahle Mazda, 10785 South Automall Drive in Sandy. DJ and PK. PK taking the day off. Got a little business to attend to. He'll be back on Monday. Scotty G stepping in for a moment. Scotty G, good morning.
Good morning, DJ. How are you?
I'm good. I want to bring you on for a couple reasons. One, to confirm your greatness, and then two, to confirm my greatness. And after we dislocate our shoulders, patting each other on the back, we will go our separate ways.
Yeah, I like it. Let's go.
If you're okay with that.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
There's been quite the little furor here with Aggie fans and Cougar fans. I think Ute fans have largely sat it out. Home game in Provo, neutral game in Delta Center, 2 basketball games. And this plays into the topic of the show today, which is how do you go from good to great? And I think we've got a lot of teams trying to go from good to great. And it doesn't matter. Pablo Mastroni loves to talk about this, and he's on later this morning. It's certainly a question for RSL, who's been good, but they've not been great. I think the Jazz are about to be good, but they broke up a good team, so they need to get to great. How are they going to do it? The Mammoth are good. They need to get to great. BYU and Utah football. Cougar basketball. For your Aggies, I kind of feel like at the level they are at, they have been just about as good as they can be. There's certain realities in college sports these days. However, the Aggies are trying to move the needle. Going to the Pac-12 is a bold move here. They're trying to be as good as they can be. That doesn't make you great. It doesn't make you Indiana or Ohio State. But it requires vision, and I know from talking to you, the story broke about this deal. And then subsequently, you talk to more people, and you think this deal is better for the Aggies than it appears to be on the surface. And maybe the whole vision thing that we talk about, you got to have a vision. The way Lavelle Edwards had a vision to throw the ball, you got to have a vision of a new world order. You got to change the rules if you're going to excel. So what might the Aggies have done that changes the rules a little bit and moves the needle here?
Well, I think it's more of a understanding of the current landscape of college basketball. And I do understand on the surface, it's not something that Aggie fans are overly thrilled about. And I get it. I totally understand that. But it's also a situation where you can go from good to great and really establish yourself as a high-level program is in a few weeks in March. It's about the NCAA tournament. It's about seeding. Number one, it's about getting there. And number two, it's about the seeding you get when you arrive there. And I think Utah State looks at that 9 seed that they got last year, and they're realizing that, okay, you know what? We need to be better than that. How can we be better than that? How can we be recognized as a team that should be a 6 seed? And I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that you saw that team last year. That was better than a 9 seed. They deserved a better seed than the 9 seed. So how do you establish that resume? You load up your schedule with quad 1 games. If Utah State was playing Houston on a one-off deal and then played another game at the where the Rockets play, would Utah State fans be upset about that? Probably not. If they were playing Kansas, or if they were playing another Big 12 school, Kansas State, in a similar situation, would Utah State fans be upset about it? Probably not. The fact that it's got BYU attached to it, that has another element of anger there. And I get it. I totally understand. I went to Utah State. I understand the feelings towards BYU, but also it's you gotta peel away that stuff, and you got to realize that the reason this was done was not to resume a rivalry. It was to load up your schedule with quad 1 games that's going to bolster your resume so that you can make sure that you get a spot in the NCAA tournament if you do not win your conference tournament. And then when you get there, hopefully you have a much better seed than what you got before. So Yeah. Is it ideal? No. But can you understand the method behind it? Absolutely. Yes. 1000%.
And the Aggies need more money, and the Delta Center game is going to be more lucrative than most people can imagine? True
that
or
is
false?
True. As far as I understand, and I think that there's a lot of projections that have been done, a lot of looking ahead to, if we do this, then we will receive this. And I think that when, and again, speculating here a little bit, but I think when they ran some numbers, they realized that, okay, financially, this could be a very, very good opportunity for us. And I think that's why Utah State decided to do just that.
Another story is breaking, and you and I have talked about this on the Ultimate Aggie podcast. If you're a Utah State fan, check that out, KSLSports.com or on YouTube. And there's the Players Era Tournament, which they're giving NIL money out there, and everyone needs more NIL money. It is free money. You just have to get in on that. And so now the format for next year is coming up. And, Scotty, this is going exactly – well, no, not. It is going mostly as I thought. I thought it was going to go to 32 teams. It's going to 24. I thought there'd be multiple tournaments. I thought like 3 or 4 8-team tournaments in a row. They're doing an 8 and a 16. So it's a little off, but the fact is they're blowing it up bigger. They're inviting more schools to come in, and they're going to dish out more cash. And I think the key thing here for our local schools, and Utah cannot take advantage of this right away. They got to get better in basketball. They got to get to the middle of the league. They got to get their fans back. Then they can do what I think the Aggies and Cougars need to do, which is get in on this. I told you that, the TV viewers are largely back east. Like 70% of the country lives in the central or eastern time zone. So if you're building one of these tournaments, you're going to bring in Notre Dame, you're going to bring in Michigan, you're going to bring in St. John's and Florida. It's all as predictable as the day is long, and that is exactly what they've done. All those teams have been invited to play next year. But you need people there. You need a quote-unquote studio audience. And there's only a handful of schools in the West that I think can bring large numbers of people to Vegas. And so I was telling you, Gonzaga should get in on this because they will bring Vegas. Their fans will go to Vegas and watch these games. I think BYU and Utah State can do it. Utah not yet, but they can get to it if they get better. But Gonzaga, Utah State, BYU, UNLV, New Mexico, San Diego State. I don't even know if UCLA fans could bother themselves to drive up the freeway to Vegas. They should probably try it at some point to see, but I won't guarantee that. So the field comes out, and guess who's in, Scotty? San Diego State is in. Gonzaga is in, UNLV is in, and they're all there to put butts in seats. I mean, Gonzaga is elite. The other two are definitely there to put butts in seats, without question. It's free NIL money, and I know you can't get in every year, and I know these things get worked on ahead, and Utah State just got a new AD, but this is something BYU and Utah. If I were a BYU booster writing these big checks, I'm like, why don't you go play in that tournament? Do I have to write all the checks? Go pick up some free money right there. And it sounds like a good deal. You'll get all these teams that are playing. They get like 8 teams from the Big 12 have been invited, but nobody from the western part of the U.S. Oh, Arizona would put butts in seats. They're another team. But no Arizona, Arizona State, no BYU or Utah, no Colorado. They got Texas Tech is in, and Baylor is in, Iowa State is in, West Virginia's in. Yeah, but they're not going to put butts in seats. I think BYU and Utah State have to get to the front of this line as soon as possible. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not, but I know that this is, it is a high priority. And I do know that is something that Utah State is desperately working towards. And I think that they'll get there. It would not surprise me, especially if they put together another decent year. If they're another NCAA tournament team next year or this upcoming season, it would not surprise me if next year that they're in that. Because I think that there is a certain level of understanding that, you know what, we get butts in the seat, we're going to be okay. I'm shocked that BYU has not been involved in it. With the star power that roster has, I can't, I'm blown away that BYU isn't front and center on that bad boy. I mean, they'll bring, I know that they're bringing UNLV in to try to put butts in the seat, but I've been to games in the Thomas and Mack for those home games recently. They're not bringing a lot of people into those games. So it would not surprise me if BYU or Utah State were to bring more fans than even a hometown UNLV squad. So I think they'll get there. It would not surprise me if both of those teams are in that tournament next year, but it is a priority for sure. I think everybody's lining up saying, what can we do to get in on this thing, because you're right. Free NIL, you got to pick up those dollars wherever you can.
As Utah State tries to make a move from good to great, it's interesting in this conference realignment and how it plays out. Before, you'd be saying, well, if there's anyone they want to model themselves after in the Mountain West, it's probably San Diego State, because they went to an NCAA title game. They've had multiple Sweet 16s, but it's a different deal. You're in a major metropolitan area with spectacular, weather. It's apples and oranges. Now in the Pac-12, and to be fair, Utah State beat San Diego State a lot. Beat them for regular season titles, beat them for conference tournament titles. It's more that San Diego State came back to the pack rather than the Aggies accelerating and becoming a Sweet 16 team of their own. But now going in the lead with Gonzaga, okay, Spokane, that's similar to Logan, right? The weather is not spectacular. You're not right on the beach. It's not one of the, top 30 TV markets in the country. It's a different deal. And Gonzaga has had more consistent success in San Diego State over a longer period of time. But at the same time, it's not a perfect matchup either, because Gonzaga's not playing football, so they can put everything into hoops. And the Aggies are playing football, and they're going to continue to play football, so there's no point in discussing anything else. What do you think Utah State is missing? How do they close the gap with Gonzaga? Or in this era with NIL, are we going to see Gonzaga, maybe drop back to the pack a little bit, and that's how the gap gets closed? What do you expect there? And again, going to the vision thing and trying to go from good to great, what can the Aggies do?
I think it's a combination of two. I think NIL will bring Gonzaga back down to earth a little bit, and I think we've already seen that to a certain level. And I think Utah State, when they look at their resources available towards them, they have, at least initially, invested more into basketball than they have football. And obviously, football is going to take a big chunk of your money, and there's nothing you can do about that. But basketball has been a high level of priority for Utah State, because I think they look at it and say, we can be more successful with 15 guys in this sport than we can with 85 guys over in this other sport. And last year, Utah State had a higher payroll, if you will, on basketball than they did football. And it wouldn't surprise me if this year ends up being the same for Utah State. So it is a priority. I think Gonzaga comes down to earth. I think Utah State, and when I say Gonzaga comes back down to earth, relative to Gonzaga, I don't think we're going to see Gonzaga as an Elite Eight team year in and year out. I think that they're going to have a hard time coming up with the financials to keep pace. And that's another reason why I think they made that jump to the Pac-12, is that the Pac-12 gave them that full share without having a football team. And so financially, it made total sense for Gonzaga. And that's what it's all about now. It's just about money. It's about raising as much money as you possibly can. Utah State has made a bunch of strides. I don't see why they can't go under the current status of what we're dealing with right now. I don't think that there's a way that I don't think Utah State and San Diego State can't go toe-to-toe with Gonzaga, not maybe on a year in and year out basis, but once every 3 to 4 years. I don't see why those two schools can't win a conference tournament or win a regular season tournament with Gonzaga, because I think those two schools are going to get better. I think Gonzaga is going to take a step back, and I think there's going to be an evening playing field. So I honestly, in going from good to great, I think Gonzaga is going to get a little closer to good. And then I think Utah State, San Diego State's going to get a little closer to great, and they're going to meet in the middle. And I think you're going to have a great conference setup.
Scotty G joining us. He's with Tim Lacombe 10 to 2 every day, hopping on for a segment here this morning. I'm curious, in commercial breaks, are you at the point now where Tim tells you hilarious stories that cannot be told on the air about his time as a college basketball manager or assistant coach? Because he's told me some stories, and they're awesome, and a lot of them are not fit for air, but you just see and hear crazy things. And even if it doesn't happen to you firsthand, you hear them secondhand from other coaches. You will not believe. And then you get this crazy story from whatever school and whatever place. And then in recruiting, the stuff that happens, that's just sensational. Are you at the point yet he's dropping all the good stuff? Or is he just slowly reeling them out, a breadcrumb here, a breadcrumb there?
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. Every day. Now, look, we're on only week 3. So the sample size isn't large yet, but every day I hear something that's just like, wait, what? And then there's this urban legend thing with Rick Majerus, because I wasn't here during a good chunk of the Rick Majerus era. So, but I've heard a lot of the urban legend stories about Rick Majerus. So during a lot of commercial breaks, I'm like, okay, is this true? Is this not true? And 98% of the time it is true. And so it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, that did happen. He's like, oh yeah. And then this happened on the top of it. All right. But he did tell a story yesterday on the air, which absolutely blew me away. And we were talking about Mark Pope and his Q&A that he did, where he was taking questions and answering them and just saying, okay, you haven't landed any recruits. Why is that? And he would go on and say why it was. It was a PR move by Kentucky. But he said that he, and I forget the kid's name, but he and Mark were going into a kid's home for a in-home visit. And Mark had the idea, and Tim was very, very open in saying this was not my idea. But Mark said, on our way to this home, let's stop by a grocery store and buy a bunch of ingredients to make a cake. We'll get the aprons and all this stuff. And so they did it. And then they walked into the kid's home and said, hey, Mom, sit down. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make a cake and take over your kitchen. And so here's Mark Pope and Tim Lacombe wearing aprons over their BYU gear, making a cake in a kid's kitchen and presenting it to the family. And I said, well, how did that go over? He's like, pretty much like a lead balloon. And it sounded like they ultimately did not get that kid, but apparently Mark Pope just decided it would be a really clever idea to go ahead and take over a kitchen. And I don't know about your wife. I know my wife would not want a couple of random dudes coming in and saying, hey, where's the flour? Where's the eggs? Where's the sugar? No, that would not go over well in the Garrard house. I don't think it would go over well in the James house. And I'm pretty sure it didn't go over well in this recruit's home as well.
My wife would be standing shoulder to shoulder with you. She'd be looking at me like, who are these people you brought into the house, and why are they going rummaging through the kitchen? I'm going to have to clean all this up later. This is just more work for me. If I wanted a cake, I would have gotten a cake. I don't need these. So
I guess when you see that Mark Pope struck out on, the 20 top kids and the 14 kids that visited, all of them said no, there may be some reasons why that happened.
That is that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for right there. That's an excellent story. You just know they're out there making a cake on a recruiting trip. That is hilarious. All right, what do you got coming up on your show today? After us, 10 to 2, you and the coach will be here. What are the topics on the table?
Well, certainly when the Lakers start complaining about not getting calls, and then it's on the heels of everybody else complaining about officials, it makes you – so you got Donovan Mitchell saying, well, I guess I'm going to have to flop now. You've got the Boston Celtics complaining about not getting calls. Now you have the Los Angeles Lakers complaining about not getting calls and pulling the officials aside after the game. So you got Boston, and now you've got Donovan Mitchell, and now you've got the Los Angeles Lakers, and they're all complaining about not getting calls or calls that are wrong. And so does the NBA actually have a problem here? It seems like it's heading that direction. Perception is reality. So right now there's a lot of big markets out there perceiving that they're getting screwed over by some calls. So how does the NBA fix it? Do they even care? And is anybody even going to challenge Oklahoma City? So I'm going to say, by the way, I'm going to throw out this question on the air. I want to get your answer. I know I'm pivoting a little bit here. The Oklahoma City Thunder will win an NBA title in, and I'm going to say less than 20 games. I think they'll do it in 19 games. Yes or no?
Well, I'm going to take no.
You think it'd be higher?
It's probably more like 20 or 21. Yeah, to get through the playoffs at 3 losses in 4 rounds is pretty rare. And they did sweep the last series, but there's a bigger talent gap there. I think you get up, even if you get up 3-0 in a series, you take your foot off the gas, you drop a game or two. And we saw when they got to the final, I mean, they won it last year, but they didn't dominate. I mean, with the distance, right? So I think that they can be pushed. I think, if let's say the Knicks come out, whoever comes out of the East will have a ton of confidence. because they will have survived that where it looks like everyone's pretty even. And it doesn't matter if it's Brunson or Cade Cunningham or whoever. Somebody will go off and, have a night or two. They're shooting the ball really well. The Thunder might sweep the Lakers because the Lakers are so depleted. I still kind of think the Lakers get one. And it may be a case of where the Thunder are up 3-0 and there's like
gentleman sweep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take the over, not by much. I get your point. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the Spurs are the one team I thought could push the Thunder. They did it in the regular season. The playoffs are different, but they could push them. Maybe they can beat them. So I didn't think the title was a foregone conclusion, but if the Spurs stumble against Minnesota, that just seems to open the door wider for Oklahoma City. Maybe they'll catch a quote-unquote break. Not that I think they need it, but it could be an easier path.
I think that San Antonio Minnesota series is going to be those dudes are just going to be exchanging haymakers for 6 or 7 games, and whoever comes out of that, Oklahoma City is going to be pretty rested. So I'm going to set the line at 19.5. I'll take the under. You're going to go over?
Okay. I'll take the over. Over.
All right.
Yeah. Not by much. I mean, you're setting a pretty good line there, and if you set it at 20.5, I'd really struggle. I do feel like, they're not going to play multiple 7-game series, I wouldn't think. I think 20 or 21 is the number. But to your point, they're storming through this. And this question, how do you go from good to great? Well, drafting well, whether that's San Antonio getting some lottery help and picking 1, 2, 4, Wembayama wasn't a genius pick. And maybe the Jazz good to great. I mean, that's a topic. I mean, Sunday, 1 o'clock, we find out. Do the Jazz draft 6th? Do the Jazz draft first? What are they going to do? If you draft first, you take A.J. DeBonson, away you go, and that helps you go from good to great, I would expect. So a little bit of luck can definitely be part of the plan. Scotty G, appreciate it as always. We'll hear you from 10 to 2 today.
You got it. Anytime.
DJ and PK, David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, coming up next. How did the Jazz go from good to great? Not that they're good yet, but I really think they're at the doorstep. We'll talk with David about that coming up. Stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is your last warning, people. It's Mother's Day this weekend. You gotta get it done. Minky Couture's here to help this Mother's Day. Give her more than just a gift. Give her comfort she'll feel every single day. Now enjoy special Mother's Day deals. 50% off any regularly priced blanket with the code ZONE50. Shop online at minkycouture.com or in the store. Remember, ZONE50. Save yourself some money. Mother's Day this weekend. You procrastinated long enough. It's almost time to start planning. Good luck, guys. And remember all the moms in your life. Moms, grandmas, favorite aunts, mentors, neighbors who were nice to you growing up. Whatever. Mother's Day. Get it right. Here we go. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, the topic of the morning. Good to great. We got a lot of local teams that are good. BYU football and basketball, Utah football, the Utah Mammoth RSL, and the Utah Jazz. And we're joined now by the radio voice of the Utah Jazz, David Locke. David, good morning.
I keep hearing you talk about good to great, but what do you do when you are purely great? When you are David James and you have been great for so long, you don't even remember what good looks like. You have been just elevated to great 24/7 in everything you do for decades. And now you talk to us about good to great, but you can't even relate. It's like Jerry Seinfeld, once a great comedian who talked about what regular life was about, but then received such esteemed status, so much wealth, that he actually couldn't relate to the common man, and his comedy became really poor. DJ talking about good, like Jerry Seinfeld talking to the common man. You haven't seen good. Jerry Seinfeld hasn't seen the common man. You're on a different level, my man. I can't wait to be with you this morning.
You could not wait to deliver that. You just couldn't wait. I'm glad you got that out of your system, David. All right, let's start with the NBA playoffs before we get to the Jazz and my theories on the Jazz. As you watch the playoffs unfold now, there can only be one champion. But there could be a bunch of teams that are at a championship level that are great. Maybe not historically great, but great within the context of that time. How many teams do you think in the league right now are great? And then who are the teams on the next tier below that? We'll label that, the level of very good. But how many teams are really great right now?
So I really have had the opposite reaction of the NBA playoffs. And I don't mean this critically, but I feel like nobody other than maybe Oklahoma City's great. I'm really unimpressed with most of the teams I'm watching. And the reason is because of the structure, the way the league is built this year, or now under the cap. Three things have happened in the league. One, the first and second apron are really prohibitive. You just can't fill out your roster like you used to be able to. And so the best teams are not as good. Second thing, they raised the floor of the salary cap to 90%. So every other team is better. It's why tanking was so pronounced this year, because you had to put $100 million on the bottom of your bench so they didn't play so you could lose games. It's why it became such an issue. But when the talent is so much more spread out across the league, and the difference between the best teams and the worst teams is actually really quite thin at this point. And so what I'm seeing in the playoffs is really the opposite. No dominant team. No really superior team. Maybe Oklahoma City, but hard to tell because they really haven't played anyone yet. And they went to 7 twice last year to win the title, so I actually don't think they're actually that dominant. The league is the margin between the best teams and the worst teams is just thinner, way thinner than it's ever been. Toronto's really not that good. It was missing 2 starters, and they took Cleveland to 7. That's just an indictment on Cleveland. And I don't mean that I think it's probably good for the league and makes for better competition and makes for the best first round of all time. But you ask me if I've seen great championship teams? No, I really haven't. I think the margin's very slim, and it's also why the injuries have a bigger impact than they've ever had before when the margins are that slim.
Okay, that's all good stuff right there. So as you look at the Utah Jazz, I think they're building a good team. I've told you, I'm positive. I mean, it's just a theory, and I'm looking into the future, so I can't guarantee anything. But I'm just sure they're going to win 45 games next year. And I think they might win 50. Now, we got to see them finish putting the roster together, and we've got to see them and see what the competition in the West does, and then see who stays healthy, because someone will be gutted by injuries for sure. That's all out there. But they can get to good, I'm sure of it, but they broke up a good team. And the only reason to do that is because you think you can build a great one, and you didn't see a way forward to that group. But I'm starting to struggle to see a way forward with this group, with 2 $50 million players already on the roster. We've already discussed in length in previous appearances about paying Kessler this summer, and if you pay him $5 or $10 million too much, it's going to come back to bite you. Do you feel like there's a clear way forward to great for this team, or does it feel a little murky? They can certainly get to good, but great, part of it is just be lucky, and Monday wake up with the number 1 pick because Sunday at 1 o'clock you hit. So certainly that would help. Good fortune would help. But how many ways forward do you see for this group right now?
Well, I mean, if you hit on the draft, you really have a way forward because you're going to have 2 great players on rookie contracts pretty early in their career, and that's a really good way to do it. So let's just not underestimate at all how important Sunday is, right? You get Ace Bailey, you get Darren Peterson, and suddenly both of them emerge while they're still on their rookie contracts. The fact you're overpaying Jaren Jackson, Lauri Markkanen, and everybody else becomes completely irrelevant. You're terrific. I think this is iteration 1. When you draft Caleb Wilson or Carlos Boozer or Cameron Boozer, and they become really, really good, really fast, and you're going to then have to move Lowry or Jaren, you're making another iteration in there somewhere as you move the pieces around and move your salary slots around. So I just think this is iteration 1. I mean, I have concerns on this team. 3-point shots have been contested at the highest rate ever in the history of the playoffs this year. Defense is incredible. Do we have the athleticism actually to do that with this roster? We definitely have the size. Do we have the athleticism? Do we have enough ball handling? We're seeing various teams really struggle with lack of ball handling at times in the playoffs. Will we be able to have enough depth when your top 2 players are that? Do we have, I like to talk about 240 minutes. I think we're about 100 minutes short of rotation players right now. So there's a lot of work that has to be done still on this roster, and that's what the offseason is for.
Going from good to great. BYU, Lavelle Edwards, Hall of Famer. He had a vision, right? We're going to play different. In an era when everybody ran the ball nonstop, he started throwing it. And there were some other schools who around that time decided to do the same thing. Stanford, Arizona State, San Diego State, and they all elevated their programs because of it. Though they were on the cutting edge, and we saw it Urban running the quarterback, and he went to Ohio State after having the success with Alex Smith and at Florida, and he had 3 quarterbacks. So if they had injuries, and they did, he played 3 quarterbacks and won a national championship. You got to do stuff different, and I'm wondering then if the NBA pivoted to the 3-point shot, and they're not going to pivot away from it, but I look at all the talk after the Celtics go out launching threes and seeming having no other option, no other plan. Are we going to start to see a tweak to the formula? Are people going to be looking for a different way to gain an edge? Because shooting threes when you can't hit threes seems futile, even though I understand the math that gets you launching them in the first point. You know, when you missed 8 in a row, why do I think the 9th one's going in? What do you think about someone in basketball having vision and playing the game a little differently, which maybe you get to build your roster differently and, you know, you get an edge?
Yeah, I've heard this, and that Cleveland 0 for 11 from 3 in the fourth quarter last night. I find myself leaning the other way, actually, but I might, we'll see. I mean, the trend this year was about possessions, right? The trend this year was about offensive rebounds, getting extra possessions, winning the possession battle. Everybody kind of equalized the amount of threes they were taking. And so we got into a possession battle. That was the new thing. I do think as the league is flattened out, as I was talking about, you probably have to avoid being – I think the problem with the Celtics is they're 30th in too many categories, right? Or 28th or 29th. I think they're 30th in rim shots. Like, I'm not sure you can be 30th. You can skew yourself, but I wouldn't be 30th. I also wouldn't be 30th in three-point attempts. Like, Minnesota's problem is they're not getting enough threes up in the playoffs. And no one's talking about that, but they're down to 30% of their shots being threes. That's the problem. They need to take more threes. Threes are just a nice topic. Everyone likes to do it. The first chance they can talk about too many. First time Boston failed. It's an easy one to go to. But I don't think Boston's problem is too many threes. I think Boston's problem is not enough shots at the rim. I think Boston's problem is that they're 30th in some categories, that they've swung too far. But honestly, I find if the rest of the league decides, maybe we're shooting too many threes, I would go the other way right now. It's still worth 50% more. I'd get 5 shooters on the floor. I would spread the floor. I would shoot. I would actually try to find more threes.
Is it possible to get more layups, dunks, and free throws? Because they are, when you get them, they really pay off. But is it possible to get more of them? And the Jazz possibly playing 3 7-footers next year, will they be better at getting them, better at denying them, better at both? And how much will that matter?
Give that to me again. I'm not sure I followed that one. You went with a different direction I thought. Sorry. I presumed your answer, and when you presume, you make a, what out of each of us. Sorry. Give me that again.
The return when you get layups, dunks, and free throws is so good. The problem is it's hard to get those things. And I just wonder if the Jazz next year, with the size they're going to have with 3 7-footers, are they going to be a lot better at getting those layups, dunks, and free throws? Are they going to be a lot better at preventing them? And how much of an edge is there in 2 things if they swing that way at either end of the floor and get really good at those things?
So Detroit, thank you. Detroit this year set the NBA record for the largest advantage in the restricted area of any team ever, and really won the rim on both sides of the ball. That, I think, has to be the model for the Jazz, to try to emulate what Detroit has done. If this season was about 2 things, it's about possessions and rim. And if you go look at the best teams in the NBA, they all deny the rim. So the Jazz did a very good job of denying the rim last year and just weren't a very good team. But that was Will Hardy's defensive structure, and then when Walker gets hurt 4 games in, it makes it very difficult. But the rim is going to be as vital as you're talking about. I think the Jazz have to be top 3 or 4 in denying the rim next year. The defense is going to fail. And then offensively, the rim is key. I mean, you are correct. Defenses usually dictate whether you get to the rim or not. So offensive rebounding gets you to the rim a little bit extra. And I think the Jazz are going to have to find a way. But you got to spread the floor to get to the rim offensively. That's the trick, right? Is like how are you getting to the rim with a big, huge group that doesn't spread the floor while you also are denying the rim on the other side?
Well, there are a lot of little things you can do along the way. How much do you run? If you are denying the rim, how much do your guys get up and pressure the passing lanes? I mean, it was a long time ago, but Jerry Sloan he always defended inside out. And then when he got Brian Russell and Shannon Anderson and Howard Isley, all of a sudden they were in passing lanes and they were running like who are these guys? Why are the Jazz doing this? You know, he got a different set of players, and so he got a different philosophy when those guys were on the floor as a group. So I'm wondering if there's a little something there. I think also it's about having a high IQ basketball team. I watch so many players go to the rim, and as Brian Dunseth would say, calling a soccer game, they pull up the landing gear, and they drive, they shoot, and they don't want to roll their ankles or whatever, and they kind of, I mean, for lack of a better word, they flop, right? And they go sliding and skidding across the floor. I think we can all see Steph Curry doing that, and I think he's probably been protecting his ankles because of ankle injuries. Anytime a player goes down, John Stockton was great at as soon as he saw his 5-on-4, you push the advantage. Because even if you don't get the initial fast breaker layup, you've got 5-on-4 for 2 or 3 seconds. In the NBA, that's a long time. You might get a really good shot out of that. So it's a little bit of IQ. It's a little bit of how do you choose to defend. It is a little bit about offensive rebounding. But that seems to be the math that all these NBA teams are chasing. How do you get a couple more? If it's just one possession a quarter, it's a big deal.
And also the transition thing you brought up is really interesting. You know, you can be really, really good at denying the rim, but if you can't get back in transition, then when you give up and the way we play seems to give up transition, and you don't get back in transition, those are rim shots. So it's not just half court. You've got to find a way to not have the other team in transition, so therefore you're able to those count as denying the rim. The other thing you're seeing with Detroit, the way they play defense, San Antonio, the old Jazz teams with Rudy, is if you have someone who's really protecting the rim in the middle, and let Steph and Castle get in on you, let Almon Thompson or Oscar Thompson get in on you. Defensively, it allows you to pressure outside a little bit more. And that will be interesting to see if the Jazz, they don't have the personnel to do it yet, but are Jaren and Walker combination good enough defending the rim that Keontae, Ace, whomever they sign, can go get up on guys? Now, you know, as of right now, Lowry's one of the worst isolation defenders in the league. Keontae's not very good. Seems really unlikely that those guys can get in. Maybe you're going to play much more of a shell where you're just trying to protect areas. Then you're giving up a good deal of threes, and you're not going to be able to be a pressure defense that forces turnovers. Kind of to my previous point, you better not be 30th. You better not be 28th. You're going to have to find a way to create something.
Yeah. David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, joining us here. You hearing any rumors about the draft? Have you taken a deep dive on any of these players? If they get number 1, I think we all know what the Jazz are doing. But if they draft 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I wonder if any of those spots, any of those players excite you more than somebody else. Or you're too far away on your deep dives.
No, I haven't probably deep dived enough as I want, but I've listened to a lot. I mean, it's really fascinating. Like, I'm listening to Lee filled in for me on Locked On Jazz, and I had Tony Jones on, and they're like, okay, AJ's unequivocally the first pick. And then they get to Darren Peterson, and they're like, Tony's like, he's going to average 25 points a game. And Lee's like, well, he might have 30. And then they get to Boozer, and they're like, well, I mean, he's a 2010 NBA player. And then they're talking about Caleb Wilson as though he's like Kevin Garnett. I'm like, holy crap, AJ DeBonsa better be unbelievable. Right? Like, if that's really what you believe the other 3 guys are, AJ DeBonsa's unequivocally the number 1 pick, and he might be. Holy crap, he better be great.
First off, I think he can be really good. I think watching him at BYU, I think his game's made for the NBA. And I think just the whole makeup, the way he carries himself, all the psychological stuff, the maturity stuff, I think he checks all those boxes. I get why he's number 1, and the draft is deep, so he better be great, because if he's not, somebody else behind him will be. And, yeah, so I get all of that. I'm amazed at how many teams here really have a chance. It's not just the Jazz, really have a chance to take a jump forward if they get lucky. You know, Indiana, I think we all assume they're just down for 1 year. If they get a top 4 pick, that's great. But if they don't, it goes to the Clippers. Could that restart them? The Warriors have the same odds the Mavericks had last year. What if the Warriors hit? The Jazz are poised. If they hit, it does seem, because we did have so much tanking, like there are a lot of teams. There's already a little bit of fire. You could be throwing gas on the fire if they get lucky in the draft lottery.
Yeah, what happens if Indiana wins it? They get AJ DeBuck and Tyrese Halliburton.
They win the East next year.
Right.
No.
Right. These guys all, the Caleb Wilson thing's super interesting to me. I do believe playing hard, and that's like it seems AJ does too. And I do believe playing hard is an important one here. That's kind of what jumped out at me about when you watched Victor and Cooper the last few years. They just played so damn hard. AJ seems to play that hard. Peterson, it's hard to tell, honestly. He's such a great athlete. It's really hard to tell if he plays that hard. Boozer, I think, does play that hard, but he's such a non-athlete that it's hard to sometimes see that. And Wilson seriously plays hard. So to me, that's the first one. It's like, do they play? I remember this kid out of Arizona many years ago, Derek Williams, second pick of the draft, and I watched his film. Like, the kid doesn't play hard. He doesn't suddenly start playing hard in the NBA. Like, he doesn't play hard. He doesn't run the floor. He doesn't, there was a kid, Derek Queen last year in the draft, and I could turn out to be really wrong on this, but I wouldn't have drafted Derek Queen. Just personally, he doesn't run ever. He saunters, he kind of jogs. He doesn't run. He's on the baseline. He's coming up to set a pick. It's let's set this with a sundial to watch him come up and set the pick. Move into the pick. Let's go. Let's play with some tempo. So, I think there's guys that really playing hard is probably the skill here that's most important. And most of these guys at the top of this draft seem to do that.
He's David Locke. He's the radio voice of the Utah Jazz. David, we got to run to break here, but thanks for joining us, and enjoy the draft lottery. We will talk to you next week with a whole new set of questions because we'll know where the Jazz are picking. We'll talk to you then.
Hoping for a blessed Sunday. Let's go.
RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni joins us at the top of the hour. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoq.
The head coach of the University of Utah, Alex Jensen, kind enough to hang out with us.
I knew there's not any one person or one thing to blame, but the decline with the basketball at the University of Utah, I knew it had gone down. We played 4 top 10 teams at home, and we played Arizona was number 1 in the country, and the place was half full. And I remember walking out, and it was the first time I got pissed off because things had just slid, and it's everything. There's just a disconnect, I think, through the community. I can't count how many people that came up and said, yeah, we've had tickets, or we used to have tickets. Everybody remembers going to a camp when they were young, and they have memories of a game and stuff. It takes a while to build. The connection's been lost. And it doesn't help that the team changes as much as it does every year. I'd love to have the continuity, but that's just not with the rules the way they are now. It's not the world we live in.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
The Copper Rock PGA Championship begins next week. Starting Monday, the KSL Sports Zone will pair the top 25 players in the world with a listener, and one will get the field at the PGA Championship. The winner will receive a Copper Rock logo golf bag and a $100 gas gift card. It's brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play. Man, I love that gas gift card idea. That's an excellent idea. Last 2 times I filled up, gas went up 20 cents a gallon, and then the next time it went up 10 cents a gallon. What? I mean, I know it's going up, but at 10 and 20 cents a fill-up? Holy cow. So you got a $100 gas gift card coming your way next week. Be ready to win. We'll have another golf championship. We'll have Bob Casper in, and we'll have another one of our drafts. And we'll see who picked Scotty Scheffler because we all laid off him last time. But we're not going to do it this time because he's finished second 3 times in a row. He is right there and ready to go. All right, DJ and PK, I'm going to put a question up on Twitter in the next commercial break. I haven't put it up yet, but I'm going to throw it up there. Scotty G came on with an interesting point about Oklahoma City in these playoffs. Been talking about going from good to great. At OKC, Scotty said 19 and a half playoff games. They win the title in less than 19 and a half. That's what he believes. I took the over. I think it'll take them 20 or 21. I think they're going to lose 4 or 5 games. Huge talent gap in the first round. 2 home games with the Lakers, who have multiple injuries. Obviously, they're still missing Doncic. Austin Reeves is playing. I don't think he's 100%. He beat the projections coming back, and then he had a really bad game. It just suggests he's trying to push through stuff. So I don't think it's been a real test of the Thunder yet. They've earned an easy point of the playoffs with an easy portion of the playoffs with the way they performed in the regular season. But it's going to get tougher, and it's rarely a cakewalk, and you're just not likely to go 16-1 or 16-3 through the playoffs. Maybe they can pull it off. I'll take the over, though. But we'll put that up on Twitter and see what you think. You can all weigh in on that. I thought that was an interesting thing from Scotty G right there. We've been talking going from good to great this morning. And Yock earlier was talking about BYU is waiting for the draft to see who pulls out of the draft. There's some guys they got their eyes on. They can help themselves with some big guys there. I think it's an interesting question for our local college football teams because they are not going to be at the top of the NIL payroll in the foreseeable future. I think BYU is doing fine, but not at the top. I mean, the top is really – it's incredible. Going to $50 million. And maybe they will be, but I think if they were at the top, we would see the Cougars bringing more transfers in, more high-profile transfers, and we're not. And I think part of that is because they did at the transfer portal very aggressively a couple of years ago, and quite frankly, they were disappointed. It didn't resonate. It didn't lead to the results that they expected. You just add water and stir. It doesn't work. So pick their spots when they have a need. Find somebody who is underappreciated, who maybe they should have recruited a year ago and they were on the fence and they didn't, and now they definitely like him. You know, going and getting Jack Kelly out of Weber State, brilliant, right? Off to the NFL. There he goes. He gets drafted. So they've been picking their spots. And that doesn't suggest they're at the top. There'd be more 4 and 5 stars, and they're careful about who they bring in and how do you fit in, given the honor code and the rules. And they've got a recipe, and they're sticking to it. And so for the others, do you go this NFL model? Invest in a big-time quarterback. Invest in a left tackle. Invest in a pass rusher. And then from there, stick to your budget. We've seen a ton of NBA people go to college basketball. We've seen a little bit in the NFL move into college football, but not as much. But we have seen some. I mean, Bill Belichick is obviously the high-profile example. But some of the NFL guys have ducked into these general manager-type roles. So I think we'll see more of that. Maybe we were all already seeing it from the Utes, and Kyle just didn't talk about it because they certainly had strength at their 2 tackle positions. But they choose the kind of quarterback we had. We were doing our spring football tour, and PK was talking about how Arizona, Fafita doesn't have the size to be an NFL quarterback, but he's a really good college quarterback. And I think that's what the Utes have. They have 2 guys who really just don't have prototypical NFL size. But one of them is definitely a good college quarterback. And then with Bert Ficklin, we'll see. The little bit they let him do as a freshman looked good, but there are more bars to clear, right? What happens when teams have tape of you? But my gosh, that kid's explosive. Good luck containing him. That's the one thing we got to get. If you don't have gap integrity, if you're not assignment sound, and then he's going 60, 70, 80 yards for a touchdown. All right, DJ and PK, Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, joins us next. From good to great, what is next? We'll talk with Pablo. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.